Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of the Legislation and Administration Committee to order on February 22nd, 2021. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
of the
United
United States of America,
to the republic,
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Jason Marsh,
Here.
Thomas Whitmore,
Here.
Eric Paulson,
Here.
Joy Cologne,
Here.
Carl Massaro, Steve Lemoyne,
Here.
Nicole Satin,
Here.
and Tony Cento.
Here.
Okay, and I'll note for the record that Mr. Cinto will be a voting member of the committee this evening. And with that, Mr. Whitmore, would you please bring resolution TC 28-148 to the floor, please?
Certainly, thank you. Resolution TC 28-148, be it resolved that the Middlebrook Elementary School Roof Building Committee is hereby formed to plan and oversee the roof replacement and related improvements. Be it further resolved that the membership of the Middlebrook Elementary School Roof Committee, Building Committee, shall consist of 2 town council members, provided that each members shall not be from the same political party, 1 Board of Education member, and 4 residents of the town of Trumbull.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Eric Paulson, I'll second that.
Is there discussion? Is there anyone here to speak on the resolution? I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Hey, Jason, I just got a kind of a dumb question for Dan, if he's around. I know we always had building committees, but I just thought of this today. Do we always have to have a building committee for a roof or something that's a structured thing? I just can't remember. I just thought about it today. And I was just wondering. Because I know not everything needs to have a building committee, but I know we've always done it in the past. But I was just curious. That's all. I can't remember. That's all.
So Dan Shopik, town attorney.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
The last roof job that I'm aware of was the
Jane Ryan one.
School
Right.
Building Committee, and that was a building committee, and that was back
Correct.
in 2008. I don't know of any roof project that's been done otherwise in my time.
I know they've had a Windows one.
There was a Windows, yes. That was more recent.
Yes.
That was more recent.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The Long Hill, when they did the Long Hill roof, that was definitely a building committee.
Okay, I just, you know,
Hillcrest.
you don't have to. Is there a rule that you have to have one?
They're not from, I guess that if we were going to get into, and the possibility exists that we would, possibility of any sort of state reimbursement. And I know there's
Okay.
controversy
All
over that. I don't think it's necessary to get into that whole question tonight because we've had the
No, I
discussion
forgot.
before.
Yeah, I forgot about that, Dan. You're correct. Okay.
All right.
Yes, I remember
about
the
4 years ago-
reimbursement is the reimbursement's the kick in for that. Okay. Thanks.
About 4 years ago, I'm sorry, everyone. My name is John Morella. We did the Hillcrest roof, and I don't remember a building committee being involved for that project. I could be wrong. I wasn't involved to the extent that I'm involved now, but I do remember the roof being done about 4 years ago, 4 summers ago, and I'm not aware of a committee that was formed for that.
This is Jason Marsh. I think, over time, it's become more accepted practice to have a building committee, particularly if projects are going to run long or go over cost, or there are issues involved, just to aid in the transparency and making sure that the council and the town side understands what's going on with that project.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense.
Is there any further discussion on this resolution? All right, seeing none, I would ask if there's anyone that wants to take a roll call vote. Otherwise, we will pass this by unanimous consent. I'm not seeing any nods for roll call vote, so this is passed by unanimous consent. Mr. Paulson, would you please bring resolution TC 28-149 to the floor, please?
Yes, certainly. Thank you. Resolution TC 28-149, be it resolved that Patricia Borgeson of 11 Scattergood Circle be and the same is hereby appointed as a town council representative for the Middlebrook Elementary School Roof Building Committee and is further appointed vice chairman of said committee.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Tom Whitmire, second.
Thank you. Ms. Borgeson is here. Thank you for joining us. You are a newly appointed member of the town council as well, so welcome. Just please state your name and, I mean, we all know, but your party affiliation for the record.
Patricia Borgeson. I live at 11 Scattergood Circle, and I'm a registered Democrat.
And I assume that because you're here, you're willing and able to serve on this building committee.
Yes, I consider it an honor. I look forward to giving service to the town.
Great. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve. Does anyone have any discussion or questions for Ms. Borgeson? All right. Seeing none, I would again ask if anyone feels the need for a roll call vote. If not, we will pass this by unanimous consent. I don't see any waving hands, so we will pass this by unanimous consent. Thank you, Mrs. Borgeson.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just escape me when the first resolution was passed as Dan Shopik. If you could note in the minutes that it would be helpful if that were made emergency legislation. All of the appointments are going to happen automatically upon publication on the website, so that if this was emergency legislation, then it can get up and going much sooner. Thank you.
All right, we will make note at the full council to Kentafio that. All right, Ms. Cologne, would you please bring resolution TC 28-150 to the floor?
Of course.
Resolution TC 28-150, be it resolved that Tony Cinto of 32 Lindbergh Drive be and the same is hereby appointed as a town council representative for the Middlebrook Elementary School Roof Building Committee.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Lemoyne. Mr. Cinto is here. He's actually a member of the committee tonight. Hi, Tony.
Hey.
I assume you're willing and able to serve.
Well, I was on the high school building committee back in '05 at the beginning.
I remember how much you enjoyed that work.
It was a fun time.
Well, hopefully
Long time ago.
this one will be a little easier for you. So I take that as a yes, you're willing to serve.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
All right, does anyone have any comments or questions for Mr. Cinto? Assuming that Mr. Cinto will indeed vote for himself, I'll ask if anyone has the need to take a roll call vote here. And seeing none, we'll pass this with unanimous consent. Thank you. Mr. Lemoyne, would you please bring resolution TC 28-151 to the floor?
Certainly. Resolution TC 28-151. Be it resolved that Michael Ward of 38 Pemberton Drive be and the same is hereby appointed as a member of the Middlebrook Elementary School Roof Building Committee.
Do I have a second?
Tom Whitmire, second.
Thank you, Mr. Whitmire. Is Mr. Ward here? I saw him earlier.
Yes, yes, I am.
Mr. Ward, how are you? Would
Fine.
you please state your name and party affiliation for the record, please?
Michael Ward, Democrat, and board member, Board of Education representative.
Thank you. Thank you for your service on that board. I know that's not easy. I take it you're willing to serve on this building committee?
Yes, I did the Middlebrook Window Building Committee and both Jay and Ryan and Booth Hill Windows Committee. So Dawn said, you will be a member of this committee. I said, fine.
Well, you know, coercion is never a problem when it comes to staffing building committees. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Ward?
Jason, I have one question, and I guess Margaret or Dan can answer this. If we have to put in the resolution that he is a Board of Ed representative?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Yes, I just noticed that is missing.
that's okay. So can we make an amendment?
I
that
would need a
resolution,
committee
please.
member to move to amend the resolution.
I move to
Eric
amend-
Paulson, I'll move that we amend the resolution to include the required language.
All right.
Tom Whitmire, second.
Great. So again, I'll call for, if anyone feels a need for a roll call vote on voting to amend the resolution to include reference to Mr. Ward as a Board of Education member. Otherwise, we'll pass that amendment with unanimous consent. I don't see any hands, so we'll pass the amendment by unanimous consent. Back to Mr. Ward as a committee member. Does anyone have any further comments or questions for Mr. Ward? All right, seeing none. If anyone would state whether we need a roll call vote for this, otherwise we'll pass with unanimous consent. Don't see any, so we'll pass the resolution with unanimous consent. Mr. Cinto, would you please bring resolution TC 28-152 to the floor?
Okay. Which one, 150? No,
152.
152.
Yeah.
Okay. Resolution TC 28-152, be it resolved that Vincent Gennario of 91 Deer Run Drive will be here and the same hereby appointed as a member of the Middlebrook Elementary School Roof Committee and is further appointed chairman of said committee. Okay. Isn't he on the Board of Finance? Should we put that in there?
I don't believe we're required to have a Board of Finance member specifically in the rules, but we can note for the minutes that he is a member of the Board of Finance, alternate member of the Board of Finance.
Okay. I just thought I'd just double check. That's all. Thanks.
Okay. I need a second to that resolution, please.
Second, Joy Cologne.
Thank you. Mr. DeGennaro is here.
Hi there.
Hi, Vin. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Would you please state your name and party affiliation for the record, please?
Sure. I'm Vincent DeGennaro. I live at 91 Deer Run Drive here in Trumbull, and I'm unaffiliated.
And you're willing and able to serve on this building committee?
Yes, I'm happy to add my services. It's should be an interesting project.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. DeGennaro? All right, seeing none, I will again ask if anyone feels the need for a roll call vote on this. Otherwise, we will pass by unanimous consent. I don't see any hands, so we will pass by unanimous consent. Thank you, Mr. DeGennaro.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mr. Paulson, would you please bring resolution TC 28-153 to the floor?
Certainly, thank you. Resolution TC 28-153, be it resolved that Robert Christiani of 10 Sciortino Road, being the same, is hereby appointed as a member of the Middlebrook Elementary School Roof Building Committee.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Joy Cologne, second.
Thank you. Mr. Christiani is here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, there you are. I got to find the right square on my screen. Would you please state your full name and party affiliation if you have one for the record, please?
My name is Robert Christiani. I reside at 10 Shortino Road in Trumbull. I'm registered as an unaffiliated.
Okay, thank you. And you're willing and able to serve on this building committee?
Yes, it would be an honor.
Do you have any particular experience that's relevant to this building committee? The other members that we've talked about are sort of required appointees. Now we're getting into the discretionary appointees.
Yes, sir. My family they're very involved in construction. I spent summers working with them personally. I've been involved in town volunteering. So this is just another opportunity to give my services and time and be involved in the community.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate your willingness to serve. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding Mr. Christiani? Seeing none, I would ask if anyone feels a need for a roll call vote. Otherwise, we will pass with unanimous consent. Seeing none, we will pass by unanimous consent. Thank you, Mr. Christiani, for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Whitmire, would you please bring resolution TC 28-154, please?
I'd be happy to. Resolution TC 28-154. Be it resolved that Stephen Cahill of 136 Canoe Brook Road in the same is hereby appointed as a member of the Middlebrook Elementary School Roof Building Committee.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Joy Cologne.
Thank you. Mr. Cahill is here, correct?
Yes,
Oh, there you are. Mr. Cahill, would you please state your name and party affiliation if you have one for the record, please?
my name is Stephen Cahill and Democrat.
Okay, and you are willing and able to serve on this committee?
Yes, I am.
And do you have any particular experience that lends itself to a building committee?
Yeah, I had a general contracting firm for the state of Connecticut. So I think there's some valuable input there.
Excellent. I'm sure that's the case. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Cahill?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, it's Dan Shopik again. The legislature last year passed a bill, a law that requires that a school building committee include somebody with construction experience, and Mr. Cahill fits that bill.
All right, Mr. Shopik, I have a question for you. The fact that Mr. Cahill is a state contractor has no bearing on this?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, again, any questions or comments regarding Mr. Cahill? Seeing none, I would ask if there's a need for a roll call vote. Otherwise, we will pass by unanimous consent. Seeing none, we'll pass by unanimous consent. Thank you very much, Mr. Cahill, for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Ms. Cologne, would you please bring resolution TC 28-155 to the floor?
Sure. Resolution TC 28-155, be it resolved that Mark Hoffman of 37, and help me with this, Challen Road, be and the same is hereby appointed as a member of the Middlebrook Elementary School Roof Building Committee.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Whitmore, second.
All right, Mr. Hoffman, are you here?
I am. How are you?
Good, right in the middle of my screen. Fantastic. Would you state your name, address, and party affiliation if you have one for the record, please?
Mark Hoffman, 37 Shallon Road, and independent.
Okay, and do you have any particular experience that will lend itself to a building committee?
I was a builder for probably 25 years, then a project manager for a carpentry division. And I also I've been on Middlebrook Roof a few times with John Morello. I was a custodial supervisor in the town for a short period of time. So I'm very familiar with the roof.
Well, good. I think it's about time it's gotten looked at. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Mr. Hoffman and his appointment to the committee? All right, seeing none, I will ask if there's a need for a roll call vote. Otherwise, we'll pass by unanimous consent. Seeing none, we will pass this by unanimous consent. Thank you very much, Mr. Hoffman, for coming out tonight.
You're welcome.
All right, last resolution. We will go to Mr. Lemoyne. Would you please bring resolution TC 28-156 to the floor, please?
Certainly. Resolution TC 28-156, be it resolved that the town of Trumbull is hereby authorized to obtain easements along the following properties in furtherance of the Long Hill Green Improvement Project, either by purchase or if purchase is not possible, then by eminent domain. The properties affected are as follows. 6,523 Main Street, 6,527 Main Street, 6,537 Main Street, Trumbull Ridge Condominiums, Main Street Parcel D04-00260. The sum of $45,000 is authorized for the acquisition of these easements. The town expressed its official intent to reimburse with proceeds of the Land Acquisition Board authorization funds advance from other sources for the acquisition herein authorized.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Joy Cologne.
Thank you. And who is here to speak to this resolution? Mr. Mauer? Are you our person speaking on this resolution?
I saw Ms. Bacalard raise her hand.
Both Bill and I are here, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Just identify yourself for the record and
Rita Bacalard, Director of Economic and Community Development.
I assume these are similar to the easements on Moose Hill Road where being will either be negotiated with the homeowners or, if necessary, taken by eminent domain?
No.
And we feel that $45,000 is the enough money to purchase all of these easements?
That would cover the appraisals that Bill and Tati done and some extra costs that are associated with the easement process.
Okay, and when do you expect to have these negotiations completed?
Well, time is of the essence because some of the easements associate with the installation of the sidewalks on Main Street, and some of them associate with the alignment of the driveways and the intersections so that the traffic light for Whitney and Main project, so that that project can go forward. So, you know, we're looking to have these easements negotiated, you know, hopefully over the next month so that we can, you know, our goal is to get final approval on these projects and go to construction in 2021. If possible, weather permitting.
Okay, and so am I correct to understand that negotiations haven't started yet, or have you reached out to any of the affected properties?
So Joe Vall, who owns the property where Berkshire Hathaway is, you know, all of the property owners have received through our attorney correspondence, but we've had ongoing discussions with Joe Vall because his property is most affected by driveway changes and so forth. As I understand it from Bill, and he can confirm this, the property where the veterinarian is located has already signed off on their easement.
That's correct.
Is there any questions or for Ms. Bacala or Mr. Maurer about the proposed easement or the projects for which they are needed?
I have a question, Jason.
Oh, go ahead.
Steve Lemoyne.
Okay, Steve, go ahead.
Just for my clarification, and probably for others who aren't quite clear on the project, what exactly is driving this? I'm not real certain what the changes are that are taking place that's forcing this kind of, you know, taking of land.
So this is Rena Bacalar, Director of Economic and Community Development. We have multiple projects underway for the improvement of the Long Hill Green District. And one of them is the installation of sidewalk connections. We received a $400,000 grant from State DOT for that project. We're in design. Those sidewalks will go from the corner of Gisela to where the sidewalk currently ends on Whitney and Main, along Governor's Ridge Condominium, you know, runs through there, and then the veterinarian building, Berkshire Hathaway, right there. So we have sidewalk installation, which requires easements onto their property for both the construction and then the permanent installation of the sidewalk. For the installation of the traffic light, the Department of Transportation required that in order for them to approve a traffic light at Whitney and Main, the driveways that are in front of Berkshire Hathaway, there's multiple curb cuts and driveways, that be consolidated and sort of realigned for better. It's better actually for the property owner eventually, but just for the intersection to function better. And that requires significant, you know, change to that area, which requires, again, the easements, both short and long term. So that's pretty much the reason. I mean, overall, we're looking to improve the safety, vehicular traffic, pedestrian traffic, bicycle traffic through the area and connect things so that the area is more safe to walk in and for multimodal transportation for residents, visitors, and the businesses there.
Will that also include a pedestrian crossing light at that intersection?
Bill I lost Bill.
Yes.
Still here?
Yes,
Okay.
it does include a traffic, a cross at the signal.
Okay, thank you.
Just for those who are watching or may not know the process, when easements are acquired by the town, the owners of the property, they negotiate with the town and are paid, fair market value for the strip of land that is being taken by that easement. If the property owner and the town are unable to reach agreement, the town may take the property by eminent domain, but in the process must compensate the property owner at the fair market value. So either way, the property owner is going to receive fair market value for that property.
Hey, Jason, this is Tony. I have a question for Rena.
Go ahead.
Have you had any reason from any of the property owners that they may not take the offer before you invoke eminent domain?
I have not heard that as of yet. Jim Nugent, who is one of the town attorneys, is involved with the negotiations. I have not heard that anyone will not work with the town. As we mentioned, one of the property owners already signed off, the veterinarian. So that's one of the 4. So I have not heard that, but it could happen, because
So
they're not at any kind of final stage with those other 3.
I'm not a fan of the words eminent domain myself.
Yeah.
And if one owner says, I'm just making it, hypothetical, says, I'm not going to do this, then there goes the whole project.
Oh.
No.
Well, I'm listen, I understand what you guys are trying to do. I understand the big picture, but when the words eminent domain are just, I just don't like those 2 words. So
Right.
I just thought you got some pushback from them. That's why you're invoking eminent domain, or are you
No,
just
we're
on a
not.
time? Are you just on a time schedule?
No, we're not
and-
invoking eminent domain. We're not going that route unless we absolutely have to. So right now, we're not taking that step, but Dan Shopik can speak to why the language is written that way, because that sometimes does happen. If somebody, let's say you can't come to an agreement, and these are not big takings. We're not taking major property, but it's a strip of property. But there's no effort currently for any eminent domain. We're negotiating with all property owners. And again, one has already signed off on it, but we just have to get that route. But I think, it was included in case that were to happen. Dan, can you speak to that?
Well, Dan, I'm sorry, Reen. Dan, just let me throw this one out there too. I was speaking to Carl about this over the weekend, and he had mentioned that there was some kind of state statute about eminent domain, and I could have it wrong, Dan, so I'm not 100% sure because I don't remember the full conversation. Something about the state, if the town's taking it or it's a private or something like that. I'm not sure if you know what that state statute was in reference to that. It goes back to about 2002 when I first got involved in this. The words eminent domain came up about the white building across from Town Hall. What's it? The Talmadge building? The
Alien building?
Yes. That was brought up by, I don't know, 2005, maybe, something like that. It was, I remember reading about that back then, but so then Carl said there was some kind of language put in with the state or something, and I can't remember the whole thing, so maybe you know about that.
Are you referring to the Kilo case?
No, this is town. This is in the town here, not the Kilo case. That never happened in town. They were talking about it at the time, about the building where our town, across from Town Hall, where the public parks people were that give out the stickers. Across from the cider mill and the gas station.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Dan Show speaking. The eminent domain can only be used if the taking is for public purposes. So we can't use eminent domain if we just want to take somebody's property and sell it for for somebody else to live in, that sort of thing. But this is a definite public purpose. The reason for putting the eminent domain in there is that I think, as was alluded to, that certainly is not the first choice, but we want to have the authorization in place. So if it is necessary to go into court, we'll be in a position to do that without having to come back. The final point is that no property owner can put the kibosh on the entire project by saying he's not interested. Right? When eminent domain is invoked, the taking is initiated in court. We deposit the money with the court, what we determine to be the fair market value of that easement. And then from that immediately, we own the property. And then if there's a dispute over the value of the taking, that can be disputed in court, and the property owner is given his or her or its day in court to dispute that.
Does anyone have any further
I just
questions?
got one more question, Jason. I'm sorry.
No,
One more. This is Tony. Do we have the funds for this already?
Yes.
Are you talking, Tony, about the funds for the project or the funds for the easements?
For the easements.
That's what we're doing tonight here, and then after this meeting, there's a
So it's total for all 3 properties? Or the amount that's on the paperwork?
I think you actually have more than 3 properties on the paperwork, but I think you received backup from that was included with the agenda from Mr. Maurer. He did an Excel spreadsheet showing what the anticipated costs would be. We may not need all of it if it's not necessary to do additional appraisals. We may not need we may not need all of it. But what you have in that last paragraph of the authorization is, and the intention is actually to use land acquisition funds that have already been bonded. So this is authorizing the town may lay out the money from the general fund to pay it, but it's going to ultimately be paid from land acquisition.
Okay.
And this
Thanks,
authorizes you to do that.
Thanks for the information.
Okay.
Are there anything else or further for Mr. Maurer or Ms. Bacalar? All right. I would just like to say that I live very close to the area that's being affected here, and the improvements will be much welcomed and make that area even more friendly to pedestrians and commuters. So looking forward to it. If there's nothing further, I would ask if there is a reason to call a roll call vote on this.
Yes, Jason. I'm not gonna, yeah, thanks.
Madam Clerk, would you please do a roll call vote on this?
Yes, Jason Marsh,
Yes.
Thomas Whitmore,
Yes.
Eric Paulson,
Yes.
Joy Cologne,
Yes.
Steve Lemoyne,
Abstain?
and Tony Sinto.
No.
Motion carries.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our agenda. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Eric Paulson.
Second.
Second, Tom Whitmire.
Tony, you want to do a roll call vote on this one? Can we unanimous? We are adjourned.
Only if you want.
No. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Mr. Chair.